a lot to unpack here. And the one place that I wanted to start is with our friend Garrett Ziegler, who is in the house.
I'm not in my home studio, so it's a bit blurry, more blurry than usual, but we good?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear. And I understand, I think you've got an event coming up, right? So it is a lot, and that's why I was so grateful to talk to you. I mean,
Yes.
Just for those who are joining us, before we actually take a look at the documents, but for those who do not know, you are the author, as well as your organization, of the Biden Laptop Report. This thing is available at marcopolousa.org. I just think the work that you've done is amazing. So
Thank you very much.
Give us a quick update. What are you working on? What are your, impressions on this? And then let's hit the documents.
Yes. So everybody at home, the Congress, after the Republicans took the majority, they split it up into basically three groups, if you will, three committees: the Judiciary Committee headed by Jordan, the Oversight Committee headed by Comer, and the Ways and Means Committee headed by Jason Smith. Now, these characters are all very different people, but in terms of actually producing primary source documents, Jason Smith at Ways and Means has been the most productive so far. Comer has had hearings. They've subpoenaed documents, true, but starting at the very basic, the Ways and Means Committee has jurisdiction over tax issues. In the way they wrote the whistleblower bill, if you want to make protected disclosures to the Congress, you have to go through the Ways and Means Committee. It's one of the few things in the Constitution in that any new tax bill has to start in the House, and they've said that the Ways and Means Committee has jurisdiction over that. You got three groups of Republicans. The Ways and Means has jurisdiction over whistleblower materials, and we're discussing those materials, those investigative materials that aren't your opinion or my opinion. These are produced by feds, and this channel, more than any, would say that most feds are corrupt. Most feds are worried about their pension above all things, but through the grace of God, we have found a couple of feds who care about something more than their pension, which is the truth. And so these documents are insane because it's what the investigators themselves were going through and considering. So that's the stage. And I'm very proud of Jason Smith because it takes kahunas to release all this stuff. There's stuff that's new to me. There's a lot that's not because of the laptop, but there are dozens of new communications that point to other felonies.
Well, that's why I thought you would be extremely excited about it.
I am excited. I'm a kid in the candy store.
Of everybody that I know, I mean, I think you may have, one of the most intimate relationships with this material, right? You literally, created this whole thing. And so what's interesting about this is, yes, it came from whistleblowers, it came from the IRS, but we've also got this data that corroborates a lot of what they're saying based on other sources. And you've done the heavy lifting of corroborating a lot of that with public media reports, right? Like Joe Biden's travel itineraries and things like that.
Yes, and everybody can go on marcopolousa.org and check the Tony Bobolinsky WhatsApp messages and compare them to the WhatsApp messages that the investigator subpoenaed and realize they're the exact same. So from an investigative standpoint, everything corroborates. If you, in your day job, I'll call it that, when you're defending somebody who is criminally charged and the prosecution has to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt, if there's any difference between a document from two different data sources, that is your reasonable doubt. We're hitting criminal prosecution standards in this thing. We're not just reaching the preponderance of the evidence in a civil case with Hunter Biden. We're proving it's beyond a reasonable doubt that Joey committed FARA violations. Why? Well, because we have the communications of Hunter saying that he's going to contact his dad on behalf of this foreign principal. People have gotten charged and convicted for much less in FARA.
Much less. And so let's dig into it a little bit. So let me share the screen with the actual documents and let's get this pulled up. Maybe that's better. So this is just the primary listing, okay? Just so everybody sees the context of what you're talking about, because you mentioned that there were, how many did you say, 113 PDFs?
113 PDFs that were released yesterday, about 30 hours ago, and we're almost through every single one of them because we've seen a couple of them before, but there's so much that's new.
Yeah, look at this list. I mean, we're at exhibit 209 here. You've got Joseph Ziegler, who is an IRS whistleblower, and just exhibit after exhibit after exhibit. So it's amazing. All of this stuff has been held in reserve for who knows how long, right?
Yeah, thank God that Shapley and Ziegler saved these investigative materials. And remember, so there's going to be a lot of liars out there, led by the chief liar, Abby Lowell, saying that this is illegal to release, that this is confidential taxpayer information. It's totally false. The whistleblowers went through the statute exactly like the Congress approved. They gave them to the committees under seal, basically, similar to a court sealing. And then the committee members voted to release them. When liars on Twitter like Margaret Wheeler, who goes by Empty Wheel, when she's saying that we hacked into Hunter's material, it's wrong on every single level. No one hacked attacked him.
Where do we want to start? We've got a bunch of documents pulled up, and
yes,
we're going through some of these.
Let's start with the Exhibit 401. It's a IRS memorandum of an interview conducted on September 29th, 2022, a year ago tomorrow, with the president's little brother, Uncle Jimmy, James Biden Sr., the offices of Arnold and Porter, white shoe firm, you know of them. And it's actually where Naomi Biden works, Hunter's daughter. She's an associate there handling international arbitration issues. And Jimmy is there with his two attorneys. Why he agreed to this FBI interview is beyond me. So this is personally my favorite of the entire 113. Okay, so there's so much here in terms of primary source. We got the names. And when I was on your program last time, you said, or we were talking about at the very end, that we were going to make a directory, right?
Yep.
A directory of all the IRS names. That has been released. What are we working on right now? We're working on the FBI. So Michelle Hoffman is a new name. Everybody else I knew, weirdly. I know, I'm a total nerd. But we have Christine Puglisi, Joe Ziegler, and then the three attorneys. Lesley Wolf is, according to the whistleblowers themselves, is extremely dirty.
Well, and this is just amazing because we've heard from Ziegler publicly. This is one of the whistleblowers, and
yes,
he was there, right? I mean, everybody keeps saying that there's no evidence, and these whistleblower guys are so far removed. Like, oh, I think Abe was talking about them like they were just like clerical people, or like they were just peons over at the IRS. And you're thinking,
yeah,
this guy, Joseph Ziegler, was in the room with James Biden during this interview, right? The president's brother.
Yes, totally firsthand. These are documents that Joseph Ziegler helped prepare, put him in his case file like any two-bit investigator would, and then gave him to Congress and said, when you look at these documents and see what we were asking Jim Biden, you'll see that the charges are so weak, they do not match up to the criminal activity exposed. That's why we're blowing the whistle.
Okay, so do you want to walk through this, or should we just kind of hit the highlights? This one's a little bit longer. It's about 13 pages.
Yes. So a couple of key things. This, I don't know which page it's on because I did control search, but it's in this document. Jimmy Biden, who, by the way, committed almost as many felonies as Hunter. Jimmy not only looks like Joe, the sitting U.S. president, but he is basically Joe's stand-in in his dealings with Hunter. And again, why he agreed to this interview, I do not know. Jimmy, every single job Jimmy's had has been because of his connection to Joe. He ran bars and nightclubs in Delaware all the way to being in business with the Chi-Coms with Hunter. And so what he does in this interview, and this is a breakdown of the interview, they, obviously reminded him that any false statement under 18 U.S.C. 1001 is a felony. You know that better than anyone going through the Sussman transcripts. And
and
so,
let me just pause right here, and let me frame this out for a minute, because this
yes, please
right?
do.
This is the president's brother. This is James Biden sitting in the room with all of these people. Look, attorney, and he's a relative and a business associate of Robert Hunter Biden. You've got the investigation's name here, which is Robert Doe. Like, they left Biden off the back end of this, right? It's like, give me a break.
Total special treatment.
Like, what is that?
Garrett Ziegler or Robert Gouveia for you.
What is that? Robert Doe? It's because you don't want this searching, popping up on FOIA request or something like that? Or
call that the Biden kid gloves. Hunter gets treated like a 13-year-old, even though he's 53.
Wild. So all these people are in here, and Lesley Wolf, the person who notified Hunter's people about storage facilities and all this stuff, they're all in the room with James Biden. And so James is there, and this is what the report says. On the above date and time, James Biden, they put James B., president's bro, with his counsel, Paul Fishman, Gelsey, and David, they're all there. They met at the above location for a scheduled interview. We've got whistleblower Ziegler, special agent Puglisi is there. They identified themselves as special agents. A forensic accountant is there, Michelle Hoffman. DOJ tax attorney is there. Huge portions of the government are there. Prior to the interview, James B. confirmed he was doing an interview voluntarily, did not need any proffer agreement. If it was needed, they'd let us know. They say here that the tax attorney told James that they had some questions about his interactions with Robert Hunter Biden and the business activities that they participated in together, flow of funds and mental state. And then we get a big, redacted whatever that is. And I don't know.
The Fed's favorite black.
We see a lot of that. And in another one of the documents you sent over, there was a lot of that too. So they give us some background. They say James B. went to University of Delaware. He doesn't have any current licenses. He's got a real estate license, had his real estate licenses, right? So this guy's going to be a consultant with no licenses, and you're doing all this professional stuff, and he's just kind of, sounds like he doesn't have much qualifications, but general knowledge.
No, I was just going to say, for more context here, Jimmy is called, this is by a liberal reporter at Politico who wrote a book. Jimmy is called the Hammer because he apparently pounds his hand on the table until people give Joe money for his campaign. So this guy is a total blowhard, has no real marketable skills other than he's Joey's little brother, and will just get in your face and demand that you give Joe political donations. allegations. He's a vacuum cleaner, essentially. Again, not my words. This is what people who've worked with him have said. And he's all over our dossier, as you mentioned.
Yes, he is. And on paragraph 7, we get a little bit further down. We're looking at a professional relationship. So what is James' relationship with Hunter? They say some minor ventures. After Robert Hunter Biden graduated from Yale, went to work at a local law firm. Good opportunity for them to work at hedge funds. Robert Hunter Biden said he only wanted the cream of the crop. And him and James B. were looking to raise money.
And this is their infamous paradigm hedge fund fiasco, where they went belly up because, first of all, Hunter and Jimmy knew nothing about hedge funds. You and I could run a hedge fund better than they can, and I know nothing about the inner workings of it. It would be like giving my sister, who's a lovely housewife and mother, control the hedge fund and telling her to have fun. So they got a hold of this hedge fund called Paradigm, and there was litigation involved once it went tits up by this guy named Anthony Lotito. Jeff Cooper, a big crony from Edwardsville, Illinois, in part gave him the money to do it.
Incredible. Okay, so what was the thing you control F'd? What did you find? What were you searching for when you went into this?
Xi Jinping.
Xi Jinping. Let's see if we can pull that up. And so here.
Yes. So paragraph 27, this is the president's brother saying that the president's son portrayed CEFC to him as Chairman Yang was a protege of President Xi. So again, this is laid out in our report in terms of WhatsApp messages between James Gillier and Tony Bobulinski, where according to James Gillier, who was the Middle Eastern-based Englishman who was tapped to basically broker the deal between the Bidens and CEFC, he confirmed that potential meetings between Chairman Ye, who's the chairman of CEFC, who's since disappeared since March of 2018, he confirmed that those meetings had to be approved by President Xi Jinping, the Secretary General of the Chinese Communist Party.
Wow.
If Chairman Ye wanted to meet with Joe, he had to get sign off from the General Secretary of the CCP to make sure that that was okay geopolitically. So you have literally the top brass of the CPC, Communist Party of China, going into business with the U.S. president's family. And again, it's not that Hunter was doing this on his lonesome. This document was written by Ziegler and Puglisi as a recap of the meeting, and I'm sure they recorded it. But this is a summary of what they discussed.
Yeah, and you can see just the framework of how this is working. So they're literally showing him, James Biden, stuff, and they're asking him to respond to this. And we're seeing this is in some of these redactions, like they're asking him questions. So paragraph 17, hey, James, what do you know about State Energy HK? And James said, I don't know. I don't recall anything. I did not recall when Robert Hunter Biden first received money from the CEFC. I don't recall. James Biden thought that their money was being paid in the beginning from CEFC and it was being split between Hunter and Walker. He thought it was several hundreds of thousands of dollars, but James B did not get any of that money. So it's just kind of one after another. They ask him about trips to Romania.
Yes.
They ask him about Sinohawk. And then when we get down to what you're saying, they were showing him some document here. It's actually an email. So they're saying here, this is an email. We have this in writing. And that's what we found.
And the setting, yes, I love your description. The setting is around a big conference table at a white shoe law firm. You got Jimmy and his attorneys, the feds on the other side, feeding him exhibits, essentially, right? Asking him to respond to documents. And CEFC was the private, in quotation marks, the private sector arm of One Belt, One Road. So this isn't like they're in China to make toys, right? And they want to take advantage of it, their wage arbitrage, because the Chinese have slaves.
Right.
This is wanting to, and it gets into it in this transcript, the Bidens were wanting to help the Chinese buy U.S. energy assets, and they got paid $5.8 million as a basically down payment for these deals that they did. It's incredible. So when they say deal with Sidco, the feds are showing him correspondence that he had with Hunter, with Bobulinski, with Gillier. And I urge everybody listening to not take my word for it. And if there's anything that you probably know about this program, which is why I love it, is go download the 113 documents themselves. I even put it on my Telegram channel, which is Garrett Z, 2Rs2Ts, in a zip file. So you can download all 113 at the same time. You don't have to do what we did, which is go on the website and manually download each one. You don't have to do 113 clicks. So the reason why I'm saying this is this, to me, as somebody who, in my opinion, I know the family better than anybody in the Western world. I'm sure the Chinese have a bigger dossier. I said that on the program last time. But to the Western world, this, in my opinion, has the most meat on the bones released from yesterday, right? Because it talks about Kevin Morris, the guy suing us. And that's at the end of the document. They're getting very specific. James B convinced the hotel manager to let him in, and they found Robert Hunter Biden in the room with another drug addict.
Yeah, this is a spicy paragraph. It says, was Biden once stated that once Hunter moved out of California, and we just saw this issue pop up yesterday, the question about the wire transfers and where Hunter was at a particular time. So this actually might be relevant to that. The White House was saying that Hunter was living at Joe Biden's house during the pandemic.
In 2019 for the pandemic.
During the pandemic, which was the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But also, right, that he moved in like he needed a place to stay or something. So that's why the wire transfer had Joe's residence on it. But we went through the timeline on that, and the plea deal said that he was back in California for the summer of 2019 because that's when he got married and he had, he was recovering essentially. And so this is saying, and I don't know if this is, right around the same time frame, but they say James tells the government that Hunter moved out to California, was completely over the edge. He said, I was trying to communicate with Hunter and he was not picking up the phone. He says, I'd go out to California approximately once a month for the family to check on Hunter. And James found out that Hunter was in a motel. Hunter would not let James into the hotel, so James sat against the door waiting for Hunter for 2 days. But James Biden convinced the hotel manager to let him in, and they found Hunter in the room with another drug addict. James took Robert Hunter Biden to live in a facility. Initially, Hunter would not get out of the car to go to rehab, but eventually he did. Hunter was supposed to be at the rehab facility for the month, but stayed for a week or two. Says Biden recalled Hunter being reckless and taking his Porsche out on the Pacific Coast Highway to see how fast the car could go. Hunter was meeting drug dealers late at night and was completely out of control.
This is a 48-year-old man at the time.
It's crazy.
Yeah, this isn't your college buddy who, got line of cocaine and lost his mind for a couple weeks when you guys were undergrads. I'm just throwing that out there. This is a 48-year-old man who at the time was still on the board of Burisma. So when you read paragraph 39 right there, Hunter Biden was still being paid 37,000 euros a month by Burisma to be on his board at that time. Remember, he doesn't get off the board of Burisma until April of 2019. So this isn't about just a drug addict, although from a sociological standpoint, that whole paragraph is hilarious. It's not about his drug addiction. It's about he was still doing all these corrupt business deals while he was addicted. Ergo, they weren't paying him for any legitimate services. Not any.
Right. He's consulting, right? And Abe had that one clip. He actually blasted Scarborough. Abby.
He has a girl name.
Abby, okay. Thank you for the correction. So Abby, we were talking about him. He was painting this picture out there in the media that Hunter's this highly qualified, ultra star athlete or something like that with all of his business credentials. Went to Yale Law School and the whole thing. And, the fact that you can match that timeline up with that type of behavior, it corroborates what we also heard from Burisma, because some of the people there said the same thing. They said that Hunter, I think they were calling him like a dog and stuff. Like he was just kind of as useless, as a person could be.
Well, yeah, the exact quote relayed by the confidential human source, pretty well down pat that we know who the confidential human source is. This has never been released to the world, but we're 95% sure that it's Alexander Oshenko. And I'll post information about him and we can go do another whole show about that. But Oshenko, who we believe to be the confidential human source, Brandon Rudder in the live chat, he got it. Mikola conveyed to the CHS that his dog was smarter than Hunter.
That's right.
So this is not a situation where they have any plausible deniability. Meaning Hunter can't say, in his book, semi-fictional memoir, he makes up that he was qualified to be on Burisma's board because he was an attorney who working on corporate governance. He has no idea. He could be dropped in the middle of a lush natural gas field and not have any clue how the thing gets out of the ground. Okay? He has no clue. So let's scroll up a little bit on page 12 of 13 because it's going to talk about Morris. I ain't no Senator done. That's a very good point. We actually produced to the live chat, and I love interacting with these folks. Hope you're not mad.
No, not at all.
Live chat, we produced a 3-minute meme music video of photos and videos of Hunter Biden to that song by Creedence Clearwater Revival, I Ain't No Senator's Son. So I'll post that. So this is the communications and opinion of Kevin Morris. Kevin Morris is suing me in the state court of California for harassment, hilariously. He's worth many millions of dollars. His wife is the lead talent agent at William Morris. And it's funny because Morris wanted to be thanked by the family. If you want to read that.
Here in paragraph C, Morris was helping Hunter a lot. And this is being written by Ziegler, the IRS whistleblower.
Yes.
Morris was helping Hunter a lot, but James Biden didn't know why. James thought that this might have been because of his ego. It says Hunter asked James to thank Morris because Morris requested a thank you.
He wanted the ring to be kissed.
Right.
I'm giving your fuck up nephew so much money. Kiss the ring.
Hunter asked his uncle, right, the president's brother, to thank Morris because Morris requested a thank you. Woof. So James Biden had no understanding of what the team of people means and has no knowledge of what Morris has done for Hunter. So the conversation is saying, what was that all about? What do you think he wanted you to say thank you for? And did you know what that mean? No, I have no knowledge, right? And they're having this conversation. So Biden was not sure that there was a loan between Morris and Hunter. Biden thought that the money was significant enough that Hunter asked his uncle to say something to Morris and to thank him. Biden didn't recall a specific discussion, only to say thank you, quote, on behalf of the family.
Yes. So I texted the film producer this, that they talk about the infiltration. One of the reasons why we got discussed with Morris, and my buddy infiltrated him and got him to give this ridiculous offer of paying for false data, was that Morris lied to the film producers of My Son Hunter, flew his private jet over to Serbia, or chartered a private jet, and went under the guise of making a documentary. Well, at that time, Morris was representing Hunter. And so it was a violation of California state bar rules to not disclose a material fact, because Phaleem and Ann McElhinney would have never allowed them to be on their set if they knew he represented Hunter Biden legally.
Amazing. So this is extensive. It's all signed here by Joseph Ziegler, the guy who is in the room with the president's brother. The entire investigation is, here's another one, right? Christine Puglisi, another special agent, signs off on this. So we know that Ziegler has already poked his head up and blown the whistle on this, but we've not heard from Christine Puglisi or anything like that. So this is amazing. And you're right, there's a lot here. And
there's a lot of meat on the bones. And I didn't know a fair amount of this, man. I'm being honest. Like, we love the 5 W's and 1 H. Who, what, when, where, why, how, right? Yeah. And so when you have a lot of meat on the bones like this, for instance, just look at paragraph 40, subparagraph A. It says Hollywood Roosevelt. We have so many photos with metadata embedded that were taken at the Hollywood Roosevelt. Somebody mentioned Denver Riggleman, the failed congressman. He can't point to one thing we falsified. That was just a hater. The Hollywood Roosevelt was, Hunter lived there for a time, doing crack with hookers, still on the board of Burisma. And so what I'm trying to say is the laptop that he abandoned is all data has been corroborated every way that you possibly can. Yeah. From the investigators themselves, from talks with his Uncle Jimmy.
Yeah, this is an interesting paragraph. Robert Hunter Biden now, when this was written, is currently painting 12 hours a day now. He has no money. Any paintings that Hunter sells, the ex-wife gets the proceeds. And his paintings are currently selling to $15,000 to $25,000 at exhibitions, and the reviews are spectacular. And they say Hunter really can't make any money because the money goes to alimony or to child support. And we've looked at some of his paintings here, man, and something happened with those. Like, we watched some time ago when he first became a painter, we were looking at him and they looked like moldy jars of milk or different containers of COVID, and there were some weird things. Like, now some of the stuff that they attribute to Hunter, kind of looks like an actual painter did that. And so I was wondering, what the heck is really going on there? Because I think they're now going for what, 250,000 or 500 grand or something like that.
They've been listed as that much. I was a witness for the mother of Hunter's child, so I can't really go into what the exact, that's sealed. But let's just say that public reporting makes it seem egregious. Remember, we have a decade of this guy's digital life, and I can't imagine him doing 12 hours of anything other than looking at porn and smoking crack. So there's no way he's doing any productive activity, even if it's art, for 12 hours a day.
And getting paid $83,000 a month, right? From Burisma and these other places.
It's very relevant to the document. Somebody asked in the chat, Joe Moss, why is Morris footing the bills? Very good question. We've been asking that for over a year. Our instinct, unconfirmed as of now, because me and Robert like to be honest with everybody and say, this is speculative. We have information, we have primary source evidence for this. We think there's a Viacom merger that Kevin is involved with. Viacom is the company that partnered with South Park in their big streaming deals. And, Morris is the lawyer for the South Park creators. And so we believe that Viacom also owns Simon & Schuster, and there was a proposed merger between Simon & Schuster and Penguin Random House. And if that merger didn't go through, Penguin Random House was to owe Simon & Schuster $200 million. It's the largest termination fee I've ever heard of. And sure enough, Hunter's daddy's DOJ interfered in the merger. And so Penguin House had to owe Viacom $200 million. So, there's no history of Kevin Morris being generous and giving big money to causes that he believes in, right? There's no paper trail of that. So this is a first for Kevin, which means it's not just generosity. He's going to be getting something back for taking care of Hunter's tax, write-offs.
Yeah, and some people like that. When you have enough money, you kind of just like to keep your cards, right? Kind of keep people like trading cards. And it's nice to have people owe you stuff. And if you've got a crackhead like Hunter who needs, $2 million or whatever the total was in tax taxes paid off and, has access to the president. That's kind of a nice relationship to connect to.
I totally agree. It's why our organization exists, is to expose blackmail. And blackmail doesn't just come, through, oh, you had an affair once and we have a tape. It's leverage. So Morris is buying leverage over the U.S. First Family with these payments.
Right.
Even if he hasn't gotten a payout yet, it's leverage that he can use in the future.
Yeah, this is a meaty document. And I want to be respectful of your time. I know we had a couple other documents. Was there anything else you wanted to touch on, or?
Let's go to the shortest one. We'll do the second one. It is Exhibit 210. It's just one page. It's an email between Joseph Ziegler and Lesley Wolf, but it's forwarding the original email from Jack Morgan at the Justice Department. So, in our report, we break it down: business-related crimes, sex-related crimes, drug-related crimes. And the sex-related crimes run the gamut from just simple solicitation to participating in sex trafficking. By definition, every single element of the statute is met. Hunter was moving women across state lines for the purposes of sex. If you go down to a little bit, the email on October 21st, 2020 from Jack Morgan, Criminal Tax Division at the DOJ, he's literally listing Mann Act violations from Hunter Biden. Look at Exhibits 1 and 2. Communications with Trafficker 1, communications with Trafficker 2. I posted this on my personal Telegram channel yesterday. So I said even the corrupt DOJ knows that Hunter Biden trafficked females.
So real quick, just to pause on it. So Jack Morgan, he's with tax. Is that correct?
Yes, he is an attorney at the DOJ in the tax division, not civil, criminal.
Okay, so he sends this email. So it's October 21st, 2020. All right, so not that long ago. And we've got, and October 21st, right? I think that's the date. I might have read over it, but
yeah, 2020.
Yeah, I mean, that's before the election. This is critical stuff that we're all talking about. So we've got Lesley Wolf, who we've talked to here. So tax sends an email on Wednesday to Lesley Wolf, who is over with the Department of Justice, copies a couple people on it. This guy, Mark Daly, Carly Hudson, and the subject is the Mann Act. So tax to DOJ, Mann. He says, hey, Lesley, attached are some, but not all, of the relevant documents related to SM and solicitation. I summarize the contents below. The highlighted records are those that are most probative for Mann Act purposes. And says here, so we got a bunch of redactions on this, so quote redacted on all of these, but Exhibit 1 are communications with trafficker number 1. Communications with trafficker number 2, whoever these people are. We got these highlighted Exhibits 3 and 4. Communication with blank redacted appears to have traveled from LAX to BOS, likely an escort, right?
We actually have a pretty good idea on who number 3 and 4 are, but we don't go public with them until we know for sure. But all these that were in our report at marcopolousa.org in terms of the statute side of themselves. So when Alex Diaz from the U.S. Sun wrote an article last summer about our research, he messaged Hunter's attorney, Chris Clark, at the time to ask him for comment because Alex Diaz is an honorable writer and wanted Chris Clark to respond on behalf of Hunter if he wanted to. And he said, the Mann Act? Are you guys effing kidding me? So Hunter's attorney was dismissing this, scoffing at it, saying, my client's never done, violated the Mann Act. We literally have government attorneys listing out by exhibit what these people did. Trap the president's family, trafficked females. Not my opinion. Probably a liberal Democratic donor named Jack Morgan from the DOJ says this. Multiple traffickers.
Right. And then Exhibit 4, here's another one, right? JFK to BOS, another likely escort. Exhibit 5, communications with redacted. A text chain suggests that she traveled to Delaware and that SM paid money to her. In other text, however, she says, I'm not some hooker or escort. So then Exhibit 6, another communication with redacted.
In Hunter's mind, you are.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. You might not think that, but that's what Hunter was doing. Communication with blank. SM requests her to travel to see him. She indicates that she will if he will buy the plane ticket. Unclear if the ticket was ever purchased. Unclear, an escort. And then 7, communication with blank, who appears to self-identify as a hooker. Some indication she might be traveling from New Jersey to New York. And then kind of the same story, right? Exhibit 8 is communication with somebody appears to drive from MA to NYC to see her. Unclear if she's an escort. And Exhibit 9, same thing. Unclear if that woman is an escort, but offers to buy a ticket on that one.
And what this amounts to, right? And so the ASUA, Lesley Wolf, Carly Hudson's another ASUA, she's going to forward that to Ziegler, who's the case agent, right? So Ziegler's the case agent at the IRS, and she also forwards it to a couple case agents at the FBI saying, hey, here's what the DOJ line attorneys have come up with. Wow. And of course, they knew this before the presidential selection, I should say.
Yeah. And
it just confirms our dossier. They're suing us for a ridiculous Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. Hunter's abandoned copy of his hard drive doesn't doesn't even meet the freaking definition of a computer in the CFAA. It's going to get dismissed. And then the second one is harassment, even though I've never even been around Kevin Moore. So the reason why I bring that up is not just to talk about me, it's to say this is incontrovertible.
Right.
No matter if you hate me or love me, this is reality. The president's family trafficked females. What did this amount to in Hunter's daily life? Texting pimps, who can you get me? Flying some of them across the country to give him foot jobs, blow jobs, and coke.
This is the DOJ being complicit in this, right? Because we have other testimony from the same people who are in the same room.
Why has he not been indicted in 2021? Chris Tagani, who's in Delaware, or who's from Delaware, who's become a friend of mine, he was prosecuted by David Weiss, the same guy who's the special counsel. In less time between this, like he was prosecuted or convicted and sentenced and completed his sentence before this investigation has ended.
Right.
What I'm trying to say is October 21st, 2020, a normal indictment comes down the pike like the following spring at the latest. Like, why isn't Hunter Biden indicted for Mann Act violations March 1st, 2021? But for who his daddy is.
Right.
For those tuning in, you know that the FBI gave it the codename Sportsman because it was a tongue-in-cheek thing, because when his sister-in-law threw the gun in the trash can, the agents asked him, why did you have a gun? He said, I use it for target practice, even though he never used it for target practice. So they called him a sportsman because of that. Hilariously.
Yeah, well, and that's my question on this is, why is everybody covering up for this guy so hard in the FBI, in the DOJ, all of the gatekeepers, the people who are doing the investigations, they see it clear as day, right? They're outraged that this is what they signed up to do, to go prosecute these types of criminals, and they're not allowed to do that. So what is it at the DOJ or the FBI, or even just within the structure of our government, that allows people like Menendez? I called Menendez the mini Joe Biden because it was kind of the same thing. He was just a dumber version of it. He just had actual gold bars, where they just wrap theirs up in LLCs. It's not that much different. But they, these people are allowed to kind of stick around for some time. It feels like they just pull them out, and now they needed to remove Trump, so they're going to protect Joe Biden, and they needed a distraction with Menendez or whatever it is. But I mean, the layers, man, it's so deep. And quick point, like they delayed that. Like all of this was delayed. Everything that we're looking at on this document was intentionally pushed back extremely far.
I agree.
Because of the election. I mean, like specifically, they said, well, we're too close to the election. We don't want to impact the outcome of the election. And prior to Joe being the actual nominee, they didn't want to impact the primaries, right? So that's why they couldn't move on him. And so and then now he became president. So now
and no statute passed by our duly elected representatives authorizes that. That's just a bullcrap internal DOJ memo that says we shouldn't indict people. In a legit country, you indict people when they break the law. It doesn't matter if your daddy's running for president or if the guy himself is. And I got to run, but one document that you'll go over, I'm sure, is Lesley Wolf didn't let them talk about Joe. She was sent a draft indictment for FARA, like the opening paragraph. And she said nothing should be mentioned about political figure number one, which was Joey. So this was, I call it the Biden kid glove treatment. Everybody's afraid of these guys. And I think it's because people aren't willing to put it all on the line. One of the reasons why I admire you is because I think you'd be willing to give up your sacred honor, your fortune, and your life for the nation. And there's so many people that would never do that. And our founders did. And that should inspire all of us. Most people won't even give up a pension. Gary Shapley's going to, because he's going to be persecuted. You know what? If somebody, and this is the last thing I'll say, somebody asked in the chat, have I given this all to Congress? Of course I have. Back in the end of 2022, to all their staff, all three committees. And what it's going to take is, again, courage to give up one's pension and rock the boat a little bit. This isn't even hard. We have so much primary source evidence. Imagine if this investigation were difficult, Robert. I mean, I could have been 10 times the impeachment inquiry witness, but they don't want to call the young guy, right? So, and I'm not even being hubristic. I'd be the first to tell you, if I couldn't testify on a topic, I would raise my hand saying, I'm not comfortable here, man. Get somebody else. But this, I'm not even mad about it. I'm sad about it. Saying like, this is the best we could get for the impeachment witnesses. All we'd have to do is start going through emails. This foreign principal wanted this action. Hunter facilitated lobbying of the U.S. government for this action, for this foreign official. FAR violation. Any money Hunter collected from that interaction, forfeiture. Seize it once convicted by a jury of his peers, it's money laundering. So I'll leave on that note. Hopefully we can do this maybe tomorrow in a couple of days, going through all these documents if you got time.
Yeah, anytime, my friend. I'm really grateful for your nice compliments and your nice words. I couldn't feel
Thank you.
more strongly in the same direction to you, my friend. And you're a fighter. You're out there. I know you've got a speech coming up. And I just want to encourage everybody one more time. Marco Polo USA, you can get this report, and it's absolutely worth it to get it. So So check it out,
Thank you.
marcopolusa.org. Garrett, thank you so much, man. You're a fighter out there.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for
We
the
love
platform.
having you. Have a great talk. We'll talk to you soon.
Speak soon.
All right. See you, Garrett. Bye-bye. All right, my friend. So Garrett Ziegler. Woo! And very grateful to have him here and with us because he has the depth and the insight that we need to really unpack all of these documents. I mean, there really is so much. Like there is 113 pages of these PDFs. And so we're grateful for his support in helping us parse through them. But we do have some more documents to attend to. In fact, we've got several others that we can take a look at. And one of them that we were going to queue up was this one. And we've talked a lot about a special prosecutor that Joe Biden was a part of his firing. And we know this guy known as Victor Shokin. And this is another exhibit, Exhibit 312B. You can see this is a letter from Burisma. And Burisma is where Hunter Biden was on the board. We just heard from Garrett Ziegler. He explained a lot of that Hunter was basically a crackhead in hotel rooms while he was this so-called independent director at Burisma. Independent director at Burisma, right? We just read he was in the crack house at a motel. James Biden was sitting outside of his door trying to figure out who this guy was. Now, this letter goes from Burisma and it comes out July 2016, shortly after Victor Shokin, the prosecutor that Joe Biden threatened to fire after withholding $1 billion of U.S. aid from, he's gone. Guess who now comes in? This new prosecutor. So people are asking ourselves about this quid pro quo. You know, is Joe Biden involved in any of this? There's no benefit. He was going to fire Victor Shokin anyways. It didn't provide any benefit to Burisma. Remember they kept saying that? No benefit to Burisma. He was going to fire him anyways, whatever. Well, here's what happened. Soon as Joe Biden is successful, this letter goes out. It says, "Dear General Prosecutor," signed off on by the Burisma boys. And it says here, "We, the undersigned, are members of Burisma's board of directors. The board of directors was established in 2013 to provide strategic counsel, whatever, about best business practices, new markets, and law and growth. And we learned from your press conference, Mr. New Prosecutor, on July 7th that the Office of the Prosecutor General has entered Burisma's offices and property, as well as the offices and residence of various Burisma staff and directors." Whoa. So they're getting raided, it sounds like. "You also announced several allegations against Burisma and its owner. You offered no evidence of a crime in your press conference, but you made allegations that Burisma has been involved in illegal schemes and that your office would be investigating over a long period of time. As citizens of countries where adherence to the rule of law has the highest value, we are very concerned about your statements. We know that you are well aware that allegations made to the media of criminal misconduct does great harm. And as members of the board of directors, we respectfully request that allegations of criminal activity made by you or your officials in your office cease, and that any investigation be conducted consistent with the fairness and the rule of law. In matters of this nature, the appropriate steps to be taken consistent with the rule of law is to conduct an investigation and prosecute in a court of law. As you know, Burisma has at no time refused to cooperate with your office, and with this letter, we want to reiterate that Burisma is going to fully cooperate with you. That said, we expect that the activities with your office with regard to Burisma will proceed with fairness. We provide energy and a lot of stuff to Ukrainian people. Burisma is fully committed to ensuring that Ukraine is no longer energy dependent, and it's therefore essential, look at this, it is therefore essential that your investigation, Mr. New Prosecutor, does not in any way inhibit or restrict our energy production. To do so would not only be a huge disruption in Ukraine, but it would cause great harm to our economy. Moreover, it's imperative that the allegations of criminal activity made to the media about Burisma or Nikolai Zolchevsky come to an end. While Burisma will cooperate with the investigation, we as members of the board of directors will not keep silent in the face of condemnations of Burisma, a company that has not been proven to be engaged in illegal actions. If there is evidence that Burisma has violated specific laws, then take it to the courts, not the press. So this other prosecutor is kind of banging the table a little bit. We, as advisories and fiduciaries, respectfully request that during the term of your investigation that you refrain from further allegations against our company and that our business not be impeded in any way. Signed by Hunter Biden, who's probably cracked out at a motel somewhere. Although this was in 2016, the crack hotel. He's been a crackhead most of his adult life, so he is probably cracked out here as well. But look at this letter. And you know what most impactful about this whole letter? Okay, most of this letter is absolutely meaningless. Okay, somebody would just take a look at it and go, oh gosh, who cares? Who are these people? The only one single word that matters in this whole document is this one right here, Biden. That's it.